Good evening. Can you hear me okay? A little bit? Okay. Can we turn this up? Or I think once the volume calms down a little bit, you should be able to hear me okay. You good? Okay. Well, welcome. My name is Jimmy Forbes. I'm the Gilroy City Administrator. I want to welcome you to the 2024 Gilroy State of the City Address. Before we get started, though, I want to do a little bit of cleanup. We have translation services up above, and you can also connect through your phone if there's a language or a dialect you would like to switch to. You can get that on your phone through the QR code as well. If you can, please make sure that your personal devices, these things that get you in trouble in public meetings for going off in the middle of them that we've seen, so please make sure your devices are off. Before I turn this over to the mayor, I would like to introduce some of our dignitaries and organizational representatives. First of all, I would like to thank field representatives from the following offices: Representative Zoe Lofgren, Assembly Member Gail Pellerin, and the office of Senator John Laird. So thank you, even though they couldn't be here. They did send someone to be with us tonight, and we do appreciate that. I'm going to announce some of our elected officials and other dignitaries. I want to do just, if you'd stand up and give the wave. I'm sure you've done before. So with the Gilroy Unified School District Board, President James Pace. Gilroy Unified School District Board Vice President Tuin Fiak. Gilroy Unified School Board Member Linda Pacino. And Gilroy Unified School District Superintendent Dr. Anisha Munshi. Okay. From the Gavilan College Board Trustees, we have Dr. Gabriel Gutierrez. Oh, there he is. And then Gavilan College President Dr. Pedro Avila. Thank you. From the St. Louis Hospital, Executive Gloria Merced. And representing the District Attorney's Office, Deputy District Attorney Adam Flores. We have representative from the Caltrain Government and Community Affairs Officer, Baltazar Lopez. And we have Valley Water Director, John Varela. Morgan Hill Council Member Renee Spring. And Morgan Hill City Manager Christina Turner. We have Sunnyvale Council Member and LAFCO Chair Russ Melton. And fellow following Gilroy Council Members Fred Tovar. Rebecca Armendariz, Tom Klein, Mayor Pro Tem Carol Marks, and lastly, I have one more introduction, but before I do, I'm going to give you a brief bio of Mayor Marie Blankley. Mayor Blankley is a CPA and a Gilroy native. First elected to the City Council in 2018, she was later elected mayor in 2020. She has served on the Planning Commission and on numerous boards of Gilroy organizations, including the Gilroy Chamber of Commerce. Marie is a graduate of Gilroy High School and Santa Clara University and was a first-generation college graduate. She has a Master's of Science degree from Golden Gate University and formed her own CPA practice in Gilroy in 1996, where she still works today. Marie is a board member of the Valley Transportation Authority and South County Regional Wastewater Authority and sits on the South County Youth Task Force. She's a 30-year member of the Gilroy Rotary and has 2 Gilroy-grown children. Please welcome Mayor Marie Blankley.
Hear me? Yes, I hear me. So I've got a few more introductions to say, but I want to start by saying how wonderful it is to see all of you. Thank you for coming. It's such a great showing. It warms my heart. This town warms my heart. Like Jimmy said, and I think all of you know, I'm a Gilroy native, and that's 60 years now. I turned 60 this year. And my father was born here in 1928 after his parents immigrated from Catania, Sicily. He went to Rucker Elementary School, as did I. But unlike me, that's where it ended for him, 8th grade. That was as far as he went in school. My mother's family immigrated from Abruzzi, Italy. She was already 20 years old at the time, still kind of attached to her parents. And in 1962, she married my dad and moved to Gilroy. I'm the oldest of 3 kids. We are no strangers to picking prunes, because that's why my dad had to go straight to work out of Rucker School, was into the prune orchards, and the life of agriculture. That was what we did. We all are graduates of Gilroy High School, and I am not only first generation, but I'm the first of the first generation to go to college, because I was the oldest. So I am proud of that, because that took a lot of doing. I mean, I was a girl. I am a girl, but I'm saying, at the time, I am a girl. Okay. It was just at the time that just wasn't, yeah. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so I've been a CPA for 36 years, a career that I really enjoy and would choose all over again. When I went through that with my kids going to college, it was nice to see, yeah, I would still do that again. When you follow the money, instead of people's narrative, I find that the truth is just much easier to find. And I've always loved that about accounting. You look at the numbers and it just tells something completely different sometimes than what someone else is telling you. Okay, so I want to get right to this, and I want to start by recognizing some former mayors. The first one I'm going to mention, bear with me, Al, is Mike Gilroy. I hadn't met Al yet, and Mike Gilroy was really my biggest, most influential role model. This was in the 1990s. It's when I decided to be on the Planning Commission too, and Mike was a real driver. He was the mayor. I'm sure many of you know, he was on the council first and mayor, and he don't let anyone tell you that just because they're the mayor, they can make things happen and they can control this and control that. You have to have a council majority with you. You have to know how to work with your council if you're going to drive anything forward. And Mike was really good about that. We had a lot of economic development in Gilroy during that time, and that's where we get the money for our city services. So it was just really inspirational for me to watch. Unfortunately, I was still in my 30s and starting a young family, so I couldn't do anything more than be on the Planning Commission. After that, I had to just wait. So I helped other candidates who were considering running for office and told myself that when my kids were grown and gone, then I would return to this, and that's kind of what I've done. So Don Gage was supposed to be here too, but he had health issues and couldn't make it. And before I even get to Al, who is here, I do want to mention the passing of Roberta Hewen. She is not only a former mayor, but she happens to be the only woman who was elected to the Gilroy City Council before me. Not to the Gilroy City. She was the first elected to the Gilroy City Council, but there have been other women elected to that since. She's the first and only to be elected mayor since. So I just want to recognize her passing on March 23rd. Okay, so Al, stand up again so people can, then you could sit down. But this is Al Pinheiro, everybody. Al and I met on the Planning Commission, like I said, in the 90s. And Ermelindo Puente, aren't you in here too? Yeah, Ermelindo, he sat on the commission with us too, and what an eye-opening experience that is, being on a planning commission. It's land use, it's where people get really passionate about, there's going to be too much traffic, it's not going to work, there's no parking, it goes on and on and on and on. And I loved, though, working with the people that I had on that commission. And Al has been a good friend ever since. He went on to run for city council and then for mayor. 2 terms. I was his treasurer the entire time that he did that, all the precinct walking and everything that goes along with his doing. So I'm really glad. Thank you, Al, for being here and continuing to be a great mentor and a source of inspiration. Okay, are there any other former elected Gilroy people in the audience? Because I know Kat Tucker couldn't come because her daughter's expecting a baby any second now, but I just want to make sure I don't miss any other former electeds. Okay, then I'm going to go on to our commissions. So if you are on the Gilroy Planning Commission, could you please stand? There should be, yes. Okay. So the only name, okay, I was going to read your names, that's okay. I don't think everybody RSVP'd because I see some here who I don't have on my list. But thank you for all of our planning commissioners. How about our open government commissioners? I know we've got a few of you here. Open government. Diana, Akur. Shane's not here. All right. And then Parks and Rec commissioners. Right, Luis, and is Doc here? Doc, we're supposed to, okay. Personnel, Nita, or you might be alone, Nita Mitchell. Oh no, and Robin, right, Robin too. Okay, and then we have a former commissioner here, maybe we have others, but Ermelindo Puente is a former planning commissioner, as I said before. He's going to get introduced later. Do we have any other former commissioners in the audience? Maddie, look at you. All right. Okay, well, if you left your commission office in the last year, please be sure and pick up a certificate here. We're trying to bring that back. When I was on the Planning Commission, we got these great certificates signed by all of the council members and the mayor at the time, and I love that thing. It's framed, it reminds me of things, so trying to bring that back. So if you have left that post within the last year, please do pick up your certificate there. Okay, I'm going to move on to some organizations. So we have with us our Visit Gilroy Director, Frank Johnson. Would you please stand, Frank? He's back here. And our Gilroy Chamber of Commerce Interim President, Jane Howard. And our Gilroy Downtown Business Association Board Chair, Jeff Orth. And our Gilroy Veterans Hall Board member, because the president wasn't able to come sick, right? Ermelindo Puente, Matt, and I want to pay just a little bit of attention. There are 5 World War II veterans living in Gilroy who passed away in this last year. And so that they are Al Gagliardi from the Army, Robert Peterson from the Army, Ted Carpinetti, right, we've named a room after from the Navy, Harold Van Winkle from the Army, and Thomas Lujan from the Army. So I wanted to make sure that we mention those World War II veterans. Okay. Is Jorge Mendoza here from Nueva Vida? No? Okay. YMCA Director Andrea Nicolette? I know she's here. There she is. Is Carolina Perez here from Digital Nest? She is! I hadn't seen you. Yay! This is all an effort to show you just how many organizations, and this is not even all of them, guys. This is just the ones that I could reach and see if I could get them here. Poppy Jasper International Film Festival Director, Maddie Scariot. Latino Family Fund member, Linda Pisano. And Karen LaCordy was going to be here from the Gilroy Foundation, but family issues. Anybody here from the Gilroy Foundation? You could. Okay, another great organization. I'm a former board member. Gilroy Gardens Board. Is anyone here besides Jane? on the board? Okay, well, okay, Frank and Jane. You guys are already. So I wanted to announce, Gilroy Gardens. And then lastly, before I go right into the State of the City address, we have with us Sharks Sports and Entertainment President, Jonathan Becker. If you could please stand, Jonathan, because we're going to get into the biggest thing coming to Gilroy now, and well, maybe since Mike Gilroy was mayor, I don't know, but okay. I mean, we're going to really expand our sports park. And Chris, if you would like to stand too, Chris works with Jonathan, okay, and he's going to be at our May 6th City Council meeting when we're all going to we will reveal the design of these ice rinks. Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so getting right into economic development there. I'm starting with Sharks Ice, guys. You can work your tail off to attract economic development, have an economic development corporation like we've had, the Gilroy Chamber of Commerce, commercial realtors are great at attracting economic development. We've hired a specific position within the city, economic development manager. You can do all those things, but until you have a company that actually shows interest, if someone was just asking me outside, Trader Joe's, Whole Foods, right, is that coming? Until you have a company that actually is showing interest in your town, do you actually have something to talk about? And so this has been a subject that's come up through the stage was sort of set by the Chamber of Commerce and Visit Gilroy and different representatives who brought this idea forward. We went into COVID, right? Nothing happened. Luca from Cordoval approached me in March of 2021 and said, they're still interested. Are you going to revive this? They are, I said. I was just elected mayor, so it had only been a couple of months. So we immediately got into discussions. We formed an ad hoc committee at the council, which is how we always start things out, because 3 council members can vet the idea. That's all it is. It's not negotiating. It's vetting, so that you've got something that you can then bring forward to the rest of the council to do. And so here we are. It's 2024. We're going to be looking at the design of these 2 NHL-sized ice rinks that they'll be the 3rd phase, so on the south side of the sports park as you drive in. And that's just going to start, who knows how much more, right, interest in that sports park area and anything that could be located around. It's wonderful economic development that I'm very proud to have been part of. I'm so grateful that most of my council is able to be here too, because it's something that we can all celebrate. It's a real win for Gilroy, and we're very much looking forward to this relationship going forward. So thank you both for working with us, and can't wait for Monday night to see the actual design. Pulma One Foods. I don't know how many people know that that's in Gilroy. That's a wholesome Korean food manufacturing facility off of Rossi Lane. And they are incredible. Really just an incredible employer here in Gilroy, and they are putting another $32 million into their business. So, investing in Gilroy is something that comes with risk for all the businesses that do it, and we are so appreciative of everybody who decides to take that risk. We have 2 new industrial buildings that are each about 200,000 square feet. I don't believe they have tenants in them yet, but they are off of Camino Arroyo and 10th Street, 10th Street. And then we have the commercial development at 10th and Chestnut that I'm sure everybody has driven by and seen, with the cute little garlic bulb that's there now. The 2 main things that's going to house, that you've probably heard, a 5-story Hyatt hotel and a Chick-fil-A, among other things. But when I speak at schools, for some reason, the kids, where's the Chick-fil-A? They ask me, and I didn't realize it was as popular as it was. Gilroy Gardens, we have 536 acres out there, and only 70 of that is the actual theme park. So the theme park is great, but we've got all this other land that, how can we make that something that will work, complement with the theme park, bring money into the city, bring visitors into the city, something that is recreation in nature, something that's maybe educational in nature, something that's maybe climate conscious in nature, things like that. So we have another ad hoc committee, and we're currently in an exclusive negotiated agreement to vet what this possibility could be. And if we come up with something that the ad hoc committee thinks is worthy of bringing forward, then we bring that forward to the rest of the council and the public, and then we start talking about that the same way we would talk about the Sharks. Right now, we're not there yet, so I wish I could say that there's something really exciting, but not yet. But that's what we're doing. And if this one doesn't work, we'll try another thing. But we are trying to work with all that land around Gilroy Gardens because it's there, and we would like to put it to use in a way that complements the already existing theme park. Things like convention centers, right? Things like those kinds of things are what we would hope to locate out there. Okay, then I wasn't going to read the number of new businesses because there are a lot, but I can do this. I can read it. So this is not any particular order, guys, but just businesses that have opened. They're actually opened in the last year. So Nordstrom Rack was just a couple of days ago. I tried to go there myself with my daughter on Sunday. It was way too long a line. Forget it. Pops Public House just celebrated their 1-year anniversary. Macaco, is that how they say it? Yeah, okay, the spicy chicken sandwich. Just don't get the super spicy. It's really spicy. And I like spicy. Okay, Anam Bistro and Cafe, cutest little place you've ever seen, here in Gilroy. Yeah, it's awesome. I don't mean to be doing just food places. It's just that's happens to be. Because the next one, Satellite Healthcare Dialysis, that's also just opened in the last year. Gilroy Bowl, owner Dave Leal is here. That's opened. Camino Coffee has opened. Rosie's Protein Bar has opened. Overflow Tap Room, Vines and Pints, Pour Me Tap Room. These have all opened just in the last year. And there are even more that are about to open, that are coming, they're close. There's so much going on, so much activity in Gilroy that we have a lot to be proud of and a lot of accomplishments. Okay, I want to move to sometimes I hear criticism, possibly as often as our city staff does, I don't know. But I do sometimes hear criticism that suggests that our staff doesn't have enough of a can-do attitude, when it comes to economic development. And I look at all the ventures citywide that our staff works on, supports, regulates, including an awful lot of regulation that doesn't come from the city at all, right? Things that we all just have to live by. And I see can-do all around. Businesses are opening. Development is happening. Late last year, we hired an economic development manager to be a direct liaison to businesses, be they new or existing, an actual person with a name and an email and a phone that you call directly when you need to navigate whatever your issue is when you're trying to open a business or you have an issue with an existing business. In addition, at our next City Council meeting on our agenda is a new customer service / relationship management program for the council to consider. These are things we are looking at. I know that things don't always go as they should, and there's always room for improvement, including within ourselves, right? But those times when things don't go as they should means we just have to work harder to correct them. It doesn't mean that they don't go right far more frequently. And so that's the message I want to say on that. It's something we are working with, but for the most part, things are working. And when they're not, we've got to work harder to correct them. Okay, I'm going to move on to streets and transportation, something that I have just taken on, not actually having expected to do that right from the start. We've got some of our transportation partners in here. I work a lot with Baltazar. I work a lot with David Lovato. I don't know if he's walked in with he did. He walked in. There he is with VTA. But when I was elected to the council in 2018, or even actually appointed when Paul Clocker had passed away, it was a time when our PCI, well, if those of you know what PCI means, pavement condition index, was dropping. We would get these scores, and it was going down, 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 down. When your PCI goes down, especially when it's below 70, which is where ours was, your funding is in jeopardy. And even when you get funding, it has to go to certain things. You don't have the ability to use it where you think it's most necessary. So it's important. Your PCI matters. It's a score about your street condition. Now, that's not to say that many, many, many cities fall below that score. It's a really tough thing to keep up with your streets. But it was something that, to me, there was no excuse for it to be going down, to be going down, down, and down. And what happened is we just weren't allocating the money that we should. Measure B passed, and the money that we were using instead of Measure B seemed to have been replaced with Measure B, and what we were using just went away instead of adding more money to the street. So anyway, long story short is the council approved a 5-year street maintenance plan. We have been working hard at that. We are now about to start year 3 of 5, and I'm sure that those of you who live here and you drive around, you know that there are a lot of streets that have been given attention. It may not be the street you were hoping for. Some of our streets are in such bad condition that they're going to take an extra long time to get to because you've got to work up the money to do that street, and you got to do that while you're not letting another street get to that place, because it's a lot less expensive to just repave something than it is to fix. So it's a process. We're working on it. Whether you complain about it or not, it's a lot more than our streets have gotten in a very long time. So proud of that. The 101-25 interchange, that's a project. I sit on the VTA Mobility Partnership. That is a group of us together with San Benito County, because we share that. So working on that since 2018, you're going to see construction get ready for inconvenience if you drive that way. It's going to take a long time. It's going to start the end of this year, fourth quarter. The ramps are going to be much, much longer. There's going to be a new bridge. The new ramps are what will be constructed first, then the new bridge, then remove the old ramps and the old bridge, and all this is going to take 3 years. What Dr. Avila and I at Gavilan College have been working on is getting the funding secured for Phase 2, because what I just described is Phase 1. Phase 2 is the Santa Teresa extension to connect over to the new intersection, because until that extension is completed, Castro Valley roads and Mesa roads are going to be closed, period. But until that extension is completed, the only way to get to Gavilan College from 101 is going to be Luchesa. You'll have to take Lucchesa around. So it's very exciting to have this interchange improvement coming. It's going to be fantastic for those who use it. And I think everyone knows that we've got a lot of people commuting from Hollister, from different areas that come through that intersection. So that's going to be great. Another thing that's coming up, it's not ready to be under construction yet, but we've started the funding for 101 and 10th Street. So that bridge that goes over 101 from Chestnut to Camino Arroyo is going to be widened by one lane in each direction. And that is something I think we all want to see too, because there's going to be more development out in that area. And so for traffic to circulate the way it should, that needs to be widened. Okay, Caltrain. Fourth train, finally, guys. We celebrated this last year. To those of you who participated in the survey, thank you. We needed to know how to let Caltrain know what was going to be the best train time. It's still 4 trains. It's still weekday commuter trains. This is not weekend service. But, again, it's more than we had. And guess what? Ridership is up 38% as a result of this 4th train. That's not nothing. Yeah, that's not nothing. 38%. And that's an additional 138 daily trips. And that for this additional train, and that's as compared, so the 38% is as compared to a 26% increase in ridership system-wide over the same period. So it's a greater increase for us here in South County with the addition of this 4th train. So these are it hasn't been without its hiccups either. I'm not going to lie. I'm the one who gets the calls. I tell Baltazar, do something about this. Yeah. So this person, she's got this problem, this problem, this problem. But things happen. The trains don't come every 15 minutes like, they do up north. So when something happens to one, it's quite a while before you wait for the other. But it's progress. And I want to point out that even though I'm going to be getting to Measure A a little later, that's a whole other thing I'll talk about later in the speech, it was VTA's proposal to put housing over half of our transit center in Gilroy 3 years ago in 2021 that got me moving to try to go after Measure A funding for a different location. Because when I saw that Gilroy could get another Measure A funded project when we only had one, and this was a $1 billion measure that was passed in 2016 that we're supposed to get some of too, I just didn't want it on the transit center because I was trying to protect the potential to park and ride for the transit service we didn't have yet. You know what I mean? Trying to get that's our only transit center. So luckily, I got the council majority to support the decision to ask VTA to please not do this at our only transit center yet. Housing is important, but so is transit. And we didn't have that yet. And to say that parking spaces aren't utilized when there's no reason to use them yet was, a little premature. So really happy about that, and that led to us getting an MOU with the county that I'm going to tell you about later for a housing project that's even better. Lastly, on transportation, I want to mention that bus service to Salinas was restored. We celebrated that last fall too, and we had everybody there. I mean, Speaker Robert Rivas was there. I don't know that he was speaker yet, but Zoe Lofgren was there. All of our electeds, everybody from VTA, everybody from Caltrain, we were all there to celebrate this another mode of transportation for people to use. So these are important wins for Gilroy, and even though it may seem like we're just inching forward, it's progress. We're moving in the right direction. SCRA. SCRA is our South County Wastewater Authority. It's our wastewater treatment plant, right? It's our sewer treatment plant. John Farella knows all about this. And you might ask, or I asked, what the heck am I doing on this board? This was not, Renee Spring is on there. You've been serving there with me since 2018. And honestly, the way I got on that board was because when one of our council members passed away, Paul Clocker, I was appointed to fill his seat until the election in 2018. And that came with having to do everything he was on. Nothing about me or what I was good at or what I was bringing to the table, but just filling the shoes that he left, and being on SCRA was one of those things. Well, it's 2024 and I'm still there. It's an amazing plant. It's under expansion already. We're planning for the population growth that's happening, population growth that's coming. We share this facility. Gilroy shares it with Morgan Hill. 60% Gilroy, 40% Morgan Hill, roughly. And we run an amazing plant out there. Recycled water is the big thing coming out of that plant that we can use to help with water preservation. And every drop of recycled water that's produced gets delivered somewhere, except in the winter months when nobody wants it because nobody's watering anything. So the name of the game right now is to increase the delivery capability so more people can access the recycled water. It's going to be a little more difficult for Morgan Hill just because of, it has to go back upstream, so to speak. But in Gilroy, we celebrated, thanks to Valley Water, John Varela's leadership, he's our district representative in Valley Water, we celebrated the completion of a new recycled water pipeline that went from the plant all the way out to the Glen Loma area, out towards Gavilan College, so that recycled water could be delivered there. Because remember, anytime anybody uses recycled water, it's saving potable water. And that's the idea, is right now we may not be in a drought, but we always want to be prepared here in California. We're starting discussions at SCRAW about purified water. That's not as far along, where we're going to go with that. But I'm very proud of the recycled water delivery, very grateful for our collaboration with Valley Water on this and for the support that we get. Okay, public spaces downtown. I say public spaces because everybody should understand that downtown is not owned by the city. Downtown is a collection of buildings that are all owned by somebody. The city happens to own Old City Hall. The city happens to own the Arts Center. But much of the buildings that are downtown are owned by individual property owners. The city can only do something with public spaces. So what have we done in the last year? The pop-up park. I don't know if some of you have seen it, but we're right near where the new parking lot is. There's a pop-up park. And that pop-up park is going to soon be home to inclusive play equipment, thanks to a grant from Amazon Web Services that was secured by our Rotary clubs here in Gilroy. We have our president, Nita. We have Kelly Ramirez, who really spearheaded that. I think maybe the After Hours Club helped too. But the point is there's going to be inclusive play equipment there. And that's a park that can be used for anything. It is affectionately named, I don't know if we officially have named it yet, the Donald Elvis Prieto Park. But Donald was someone I went to elementary school with, too, longtime Gilroy person, too, and he just suffered from diabetes for a very long time, and it ultimately got him. But he loved to perform as Elvis, and so I think everybody had a chance to see him at some point in time, and so that's what the park's named after. The gourmet parking lot, 140 spaces, beautifully done, exposes the Veterans Hall building instead of having all the weeds that were there. And adds, of course, much-needed parking so that people can park there. Caltrans, Clean California program, gave us a grant a couple of years ago that we are now implementing. So Gilroy is going to see, our downtown is going to see our first pedestrian-only space. That's what I like to call it, because I love visiting European kind of cities that have piazzas and places where people just hang. So this is going to be something like that. It'll be up to the business owners of the buildings that are adjacent to the alley, whether or not they want to open onto the alley. But expect to see pedestrian-only space, beautiful landscaping, benches. You're not going to see trash bins. Those will all be out of the way, and nothing will be unsightly. Nothing should be unsightly. Well lit at night. So really should be a great place. I, for one, am very, very anxious to see it complete, because until it's complete, it's going to be a pain in the butt. It is. It's going to be a pain in the butt, just like First Street was when Caltrans was repaving First Street, and we decided we were going to increase the size of the water and sewer lines under it, and that went on for a couple of years, if you all remember, and those businesses were highly impacted. So hopefully this one's going to go a lot more quickly. All right, I want to give kudos to the GDBA, because they continue to focus on not just on the downtown businesses, but the occupancy and events that attract more people downtown. The popular Downtown Live concert series continues this summer with all their usual events that we've come to love. I'd like to stress the amount of work that goes into planning these events. Sometimes we all just attend and we think this is just a party, and we have no idea just how much went into planning that and the volunteer hours and all. And there's a lot of time that goes into the events that you never even see. And what do I mean by that? I mean the ones that people tried to do. The ideas that people have to make things bigger and better, and let's do this and let's do that. And then we got to get through, okay, what streets are getting closed? What's the public safety implications? What are the insurance requirements? What's all going on? And sometimes it just becomes too costly to do that bigger and more grand thing, the thing that goes over 2 days, 3 days, or whatever it is, and so you never see it. But that doesn't mean the volunteers didn't try and didn't put an awful lot of time and energy into that, and that you shouldn't be really proud that you live in a community that has all of this enthusiasm to try to do so much so that we're all having a good time, and attracting people to go to the businesses that we have here. It's really the message I want to say. So when you see a GDBA board member, or a member of city staff for that matter, thank them for all the work, that goes into this kind of stuff, for trying to bring us all the fun. And that's not unlike the Gilroy Garlic Festival Association, right? That's what the Garlic Festival is all about. And they have their own lineup of events this year that continue their legacy of giving back to our local community. Moving forward from the 2019 tragedy has been a painful process, right? And we're not even the ones who had a death in our family from that tragedy. But last November, we did hit a bit of a positive milestone, and that was the City of Gilroy and the Garlic Festival Association were both released from the largest of the lawsuits. This was just last fall. So that's a big deal. There are still many, many smaller lawsuits that remain that are continuing to deter insurance providers from underwriting any form of event that carries the name Gilroy Garlic Festival. But that doesn't mean that's going to go on forever. I don't know how long lawsuits take forever, but that's where that is. So in the meantime, the Garlic Festival Association is putting on many events. They're going to be at Day on the Ridge. They're going to be at the rodeo. Support where you can. When you see they seem to be really good with social media, realize that this is support. Try not to be those in the comments that are just complaining that it's not the festival. We know, but it will return. And for now, support where you can. Okay, I want to get back to Measure A now. I started saying that earlier. That's the $1 billion measure that was passed in 2016, and Gilroy's piece of that was a 75-unit apartment building south of town, kind of close to where the Gilroy Dispatch used to be. I say our piece of it is that, I say it the way I'm saying it because in early 2022, that $1 billion was already all spoken for. It wasn't all spent, but it was all spoken for. So when we got VTA's proposal to do the housing development on the transit center, that's when I realized, okay, there's a way to get more of this for Gilroy. And so I went to Mike Wasserman at the time, who was our county supervisor at the time, and asked, what do I need to do? How do I get this going to suggest that the county's property that is near the transit center, not on the transit center, but near the transit center, that we get a housing project there that is 100% affordable, that can meet the needs of Gilroy. And with the approval of my city council to move forward in that direction, we were able to get to Office of Supportive Housing, create some kind of idea of what we could put there, and if it's Measure A supported, how affordable can it be? And what we came up with, and what I mean by come up with, I mean what got presented to the City Council in August of 2022 that the Council then approved, was an MOU, a Memorandum of Understanding, for units that are, at the time we were looking at 60 units, that could change, but 50% of all of the units will be low income, 25% very low income, and 25% extremely low income. Something that would be really beneficial to Gilroy and much better than what would have been the mix at the housing development that was being proposed for VTA, because that was going to include an awful lot of market rate housing as well. So that another win for something that we didn't have. It's at least another piece, money that's now earmarked for Gilroy through Measure A. It still sits with the Office of Supportive Housing. They'll need to put out their, requests for proposals and offers and get construction going. But even though construction hasn't started, the money's earmarked for it, and that's what's important. I want to mention a couple things here on housing before I go into a little more. And that is that, housing laws have really changed. We've had an awful lot of housing laws come down, changing the way we've all thought of housing, something that's taken us, I think, from back when I was on the Planning Commission in the 90s, kind of an aura of not in my backyard, right? Nobody wanting to build. People, as soon as they own their home, then nobody else is welcome. They themselves didn't cause any problem, right? The fact that they moved there, but the next guy is the one that's going to cause the problem. That was just the attitude. Something that never followed market demand. right? And so you're trying to limit supply, not following market demand, which causes the existing supply to rise in cost. And that's done at the expense of those who don't already have a home. Well, now I think we've kind of swung the other way, where now it's just build, 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 build. And when you do that without balancing the consideration of where you're building with the job growth that's also there and with the infrastructure for transportation, you can cause some other problems. So all I want to say at this stage here is that SB 9, Senate Bill 9, which is what passed, it might have even been in 2020. I don't know how long ago that was. But when that passed, that really changed for cities. That made it where ministerially housing was approved to increase density in already existing neighborhoods. That's what SB 9 did. So it wasn't about creating more housing in new developments or a better mix of housing in new developments. It was going into existing neighborhoods. They could be as old as, it could be your grandparents who've been living there forever, and it was making it possible. It makes it possible for next door with a certain lot size to change a single-family home into 4 different units. No parking requirements. I mean, this was all an effort to increase the housing supply. Okay, so there's been legislation now. Some cities have challenged it. 5 charter cities went to court over this, and they won. It's unconstitutional. We'll be hearing a report from our city attorney at our next council meeting. Gilroy's a charter city. I'm not trying to say how we're going to go. This is a council decision. I'm just calling to everyone's attention that we don't have to just accept what a state, mandate is. We can look at it. We can decide, what is really applicable for us and what isn't. We can still increase housing supply without costing us something else. Because in cases where, like in Gilroy, where we don't have the infrastructure for transportation yet, and this is where people are coming to live in this new housing, they've got to commute north to work. And if you're not factoring in the fact that the job market isn't growing at the same rate in Gilroy, then that's where people have to go. And that's not good for congestion management. Same thing with builder's remedy. For those of you who don't know what that term means, it's a section in the housing code that allows a developer to build housing where it's not zoned for housing. We have a general plan. Everybody approves the general plan. We plan our city so that we're balanced with jobs, commercial stuff, housing stuff. I mean, that's what we do. We have a general plan. And this section of the housing code says that if you've been basically a bad city, if you need to be punished because you haven't been building the housing mix that you should be building, then we're going to remove your ability to plan for your city, and housing can go wherever it's zoned. So if it's zoned industrial, doesn't matter. Could put housing in there. If it's zoned commercial, doesn't matter. Could put housing in there. It's meant to be punitive. Builder's remedy is meant to be punitive. What happened with our housing element and everybody else's, we submitted our housing element for approval. That's the section of our general plan that has to get approved by HCD at the state every 8 years. We submitted ours in October. Its deadline to be approved is the end of January. 3 days before the deadline, we and everybody else got notices, not approved. You need to change this, this, this. We want this, this, and this, which is all fine. That all got addressed. But the fact that it wasn't then approved on January 30th really rung in the ears of developers who jumped on the opportunity to now be able to build without having to ask for a zoning change. Normally, no one's saying you can't build. You can propose your housing project, but if it's in an area that's not zoned for housing, you got to go through the zoning change process, right? So that everybody gets to, you can consider all impacts of it. So what builders remedy, again, I'm pointing this out to say we don't just have to roll over. We can look at these things too. Gilroy right now has two developers that are trying to build where it is not zoned for housing. And where we go from here remains to be seen, but we are watching other cities who are fighting it, namely San Jose, and we'll have to just wait and see how this plays out. Okay, how are we addressing the unhoused in Gilroy? We follow our housing element for housing mix that provides opportunity for various levels of income. The MOU I just mentioned with the county, not built yet, but it's coming. We created a position and hired a housing community services manager within our community development department to make more concentrated efforts on affordable housing production, preservation, and protection for our residents. And we made permanent what we call our quality of life officer program. We have 2 police officers who are dedicated to issues related solely to the unhoused. And that's a lot of issues. It's not just the unhoused that have the issues, it's the residents and businesses that are affected by it too. So like with our economic development manager, like with this new community services manager, we now have these 2 officers who are direct contacts for anybody who's having issues with something related to whether it's illegal parking, whether it's trespassing, whether it's illegal loitering, something where you're doing something that isn't just sitting, lying, or that sort of thing on the properties. So I'm very happy that I have names and phone numbers and emails to give people who have been constantly fighting an issue. We have parts of Gilroy where it's just easier for people to congregate and be. They can be there longer, and that doesn't make it right when they start crossing that line that imposes upon somebody else's business livelihood, ability to enjoy their own home and their space. And so we can do something about that. What we can't do anything about is the repetitive nature of it all. Our quality of life officers pretty much know every face of, someone who's out there, and they know the hot spots where we have problems. And they'll go out and we'll get things resolved. They can make direct contact with whoever is the jurisdictional, whether it's Valley Water, whether it's the City of Gilroy, whether it's Caltrans, whether it's Union Pacific, or a private property owner, right? You have to have jurisdiction to go in and do anything, so they can make those contacts. They make the contacts with the individuals to get them to the services they need. They circle back, and if the person hasn't contacted the service provider, then they bring the service provider to the individual to say, how can we help? Where can we get you placed? What is it your needs are? It's being addressed as best we can, but the issue is it's pretty overwhelming, I think, as everybody knows. And you also know that it isn't just in Gilroy. It's a situation that we're all trying to manage as best we can. Okay, so we remove encampments that are forming in prohibited areas. The council last year, passed a ordinance. It was an ordinance that we have certain areas that, for health and safety reasons, where bridges were being compromised, near schools, where we prohibited encampments from being. We enforce parking restrictions on public streets where RVs and personal property accumulate for lengthy periods of time and are affecting nearby residents and businesses. We have a twice-per-week trash pickup schedule that we didn't have before. City Council approved this little mini dump truck thing, and so we go around and have these hot spots. You would think that with all of this, you wouldn't see trash. But you do, right? You still see, because it just keeps coming. And we've added service through Recology to include bulky item pickup twice per year and added mattress recycling events. So yay. All right. Should I tell a joke? I don't have any jokes, so never mind. Not going to tell a joke. But I'm glad that made you laugh. Okay. We might be looking at a public safety tax measure. With all this population growth, and I know it's an election year and nobody wants to see tax, but this is a potential for the voters to decide if a 0.25% sales tax, something that gets paid by visitors, and everybody else too, is worth having improved public safety, police and fire and medical response today, as opposed to years from now. Because that's where we are. Trying to figure out, what do you do when population keeps increasing, right? More housing. No money is coming with this for city services. It's not. The housing does not produce money. Yes, there's property tax, but the cost of the city services are way more than what just the minuscule portion of property tax that the city gets, mind you, right? That goes most to the county and to the state. So if we want to do something today, then we need a revenue stream, and it needs to be a recurring revenue stream. It can't be come from a one-time source. So the best we've come up with so far is this 0.25% sales tax. How it's going to go, I don't know. And as far as I'm concerned, what's important is for us to explain what it is so that you all can decide, is it something you want to support or not? You need to know the facts. You need to know why we're in the situation we're in. You need to know what the money is going to be going for. You need to know why there isn't money somewhere else that could be used instead that you're already paying. You need to know all of these things. And then you decide at the ballot. It would have to pass by 2/3. So it needs to have real support, and that's because we are promising it specifically for public safety. If it were general, that would just need 50%. Some of you may remember in 2014, Gilroy tried this with Measure F, and it wasn't, the polls were showing it wasn't going to make it at the 2/3. So the then city council decided to make it a general. It was going to be a sales tax too, but they made it general, so it only needed 50% to pass, and it still failed. And it might have failed because those who did support public safety wanted some assurances that the money was going to go to public safety, right? And so that's why you make it specific to something, and then it's up to the voters to decide. So we'll see where that goes, but I want everyone to know that we're trying. I personally think that you've got to try different ideas to move us forward and explain to people why we're in the position that we're in. CalPERS, is something that Gilroy and all other cities are fighting with, growing, not only unfunded liabilities, this is the retirement plan for public employees, and even the minimum payment is growing. And I think I've explained that well enough in many of the things that I've written for everyone, but it's because the benefits are paid at a defined amount, regardless of what the market does. We pay a certain amount to our retirees, and if the market doesn't earn that rate, then we get a greater unfunded liability. And our minimum payment, think of it like a credit card, like you're increasing the balance on your credit card. It keeps going up and up and up. So you make a minimum payment. The larger your balance, your minimum payment may go up, but interest continues to accrue. So this thing just keeps growing and growing and growing and growing. We're not alone in this boat, but what we did do, the council in 2019, is we started what's called a Section 115 trust. And we funded it. We put $2 million into that trust then. Today, it has $3 million in it. We're supposed to be adding another $750,000 to it. May seem like peanuts, drops in the bucket next to a $120 million unfunded liability debt. And when you realize that our minimum payment, like for 2024, is $13.6 million, and in 2025, 14.7. I mean, it goes up by over $1 million in a year. So what this trust is going to do is be there for us in the event that we are struggling to make that minimum payment, so that it buys us time. That's how I look at it. When at some point, this is going to really hit something where something's going to have to change. And I don't want to see Gilroy being one of the first to fall. If we have something set aside, which, by the way, helps you with all of your credit ratings, too, and when we go out for bonds and all that other stuff. So these are good financial decisions to make. But it may seem like a little bit of money, not much, but I want everyone to understand that really all it could do is buy us more time, so that we're able to figure out where this is going to go. Because these are real obligations that we have to our employees, current and former. And they're not going away, and we have to be able to pay for them. All right, St. Louis Hospital. You met Gloria Delamerced. She was here. There she is. Yeah, she's right there. She's awesome. Gloria really is just a community promoter. I mean, she really lets us know all the stuff that's happening at the hospital. And I want everyone to realize how fortunate we are to have our St. Louis Regional Hospital, because you may remember how close we were to losing it. It had filed bankruptcy, right? And the county was the only one to put a bid on the hospital. So we have our local hospital, thanks to the County of Santa Clara, who is now running it. And the programs that are there are pretty good and growing. Last year, we celebrated the addition of a program that treats victims of sexual assault and physical abuse, making it so much better for them not to have to travel long distances in the immediate aftermath of that kind of trauma. And on May 9th, we're going to celebrate the unveiling of 10 new ambulances for intra-hospital transfers. So we have a great resource in our local hospital that we all should really appreciate. We also have a great resource in our Reentry Resource Center that is located not too terribly far from the hospital, and the Resiliency Center. We have representatives here that Jimmy introduced earlier from our Reentry Resource Center that aims to help our communities, be safer and make sure that people who are coming out of being incarcerated or who are at risk of being incarcerated know that they can choose a different path, and here's how they can do it. And the Resiliency Center is there for victims of any kind of trauma. Usually it's a gun shooting, but it could be any kind of violence that you've suffered, and you can use the Resiliency Center that's in the Neon Exchange, there for all of us. Gavilan College. This is a fun one. I enjoy monthly meetings with Dr. Avila. We have lunch once a month. It was supposed to be with one of his board members too, and she's made it 1 or 2 times. Usually it's just us. Jimmy came with us once too. But these are just really, it's so insightful for me to hear ideas. Mostly what we've been working on is getting the funding for that phase 2 of, like I said, the Santa Teresa extension. Just brainstorming with who are we meeting with next, what letters do we have to sign, how are we bugging David, from BTA to get us more information that we need to get this funding. When is the right time? What are the buckets of funding that we could be going after to earmark for all of this? I mean, it's a career of its own. I mean, I've got my own job. I don't know how I do all this too, but I find transportation interesting. I just do. And so that's what we've been talking about a lot. But I want to boast a little bit about Gavilan's numbers too. What I mean is their enrollment is soaring. I mean, under Dr. Avila's leadership, they now have a total student body of over 7,000, which is a milestone not achieved since 2016. So that's quite a long time. That's quite impressive. And this spring alone, enrollment increased by 20%, following a 23% jump from last year. So we should be proud of our local hospital, our local college. I mean, almost all of us attended something at Gavilan, right? My dad made me get my hunting license there, so he could have more deer tags when he went hunting. But so there's always something. I did ground school there too, but realized I couldn't afford flying. So I wasn't going to buy a plane or rent a plane or anything, but I did do ground school there. Okay, in Gilroy Unified, I have really enjoyed Dr. Flores' retirement. Because since she's retired, she's available to do stuff. And so it's been really fun to have somebody who can just be, when I have that free time, which is almost never, yeah, sure, want to go to this one? Yeah. So thank you for retiring. Thank you, Anisha, for taking over that spot. And it's been really nice. I really don't have much more to say about that, except that I'm really enjoying that retirement. I do want to talk about, though, Gilroy Unified School District and Anisha. In my written State of the City, I left off the A. I didn't want anybody. We are friends, but not so close that I call her Anish. And the A was left off, So, yeah. Anyway, last year, the school district unveiled South Valley Middle School. The year before, it was Brownell Middle School. Wow, right? Just what Measure E funds can do. Measure E funds have also been used to modernize several other school facilities. Because South Valley Middle School was the most recent one, those of us who grew up in Gilroy, at least in my time, all expected to be going there for high school. That was the only Gilroy high school. That's how old that facility is. That was even the only high school when my dad never went past 8th grade at Rucker, right? It was still just that. So to see that transformation of a school that is that old, even though I personally never attended it, when I actually entered high school, the new Gilroy High School had been built. The one that's on 10th Street. That was the new school at the time, 1978. So I never physically attended that. But just huge transformation. Okay, Jimmy Forbes and I meet with Dr. Munshi and Vice Chair, right, used to be Linda, but now it's James, and Twin, right? We meet monthly too for the same reasons, right? We collaborate. What are the issues that are affecting both of our agencies? GUSD's top 3 priorities, I want to share what they've told me. It's academic success for all students, mental health and social, emotional well-being of students, and safe and inclusive schools with positive culture and climate. This past year, all 3 schools opened wellness centers, all 3 middle schools opened wellness centers, and the district is looking to do the same at high schools. Elliott Elementary School has a wellness center, too. So I guess I have to say that Gavilan and GUSD are both on the move. I use that phrase for Gilroy. Gilroy's on the move, but you guys are on the move, too, so glad to hear that. Okay, we have, because Carolina is here, I really want to say something about Digital Nest. For those of you who don't know what Digital Nest is, it's a space. They call it a nest because it's where you go, right? Like birds would go to a nest. To gain knowledge, experience, training with anything tech. Anything tech. Jacob Martinez was one of the founders, and before COVID hit, 2019 or whenever it was, 2018, he called me and said, Marie, I want to bring this to Gilroy. We have one in Watsonville, we have one in Salinas, we want to bring one to Gilroy. He was describing the whole thing to me, and I'm like, oh, great. That'd be fabulous here. Finding space has been his challenge. They are currently in the CMAT building. He just told me last week that he's working on space. He wants to talk to me about where the space is because it's hard to get donors to contribute when they don't feel like you're permanent. You know, you need to have a home where people can believe that you're here to stay and that you're here to benefit the community. So this has been a really great addition for Gilroy. It brings in students from our schools. I asked the last time I was there, I was asking, how are you getting the word out? How do kids know? You kids who are here, how did you know to come here, to come listen to this, to come find out what you could do here? It's such a wonderful program that I'm really happy to support, both financially and the way I'm doing here. I just want you to know that it's here, and I think it is going to stay. And it's a really great resource that we have. So thanks for being here. Okay, I look back not just on accomplishments, not just on my accomplishments, but on those of the city council and city staff. The ice rinks at the sports park have been and continue to be one of the most exciting endeavors of my first term as mayor. And really, I've only had half a term because COVID hit for the first half, right? I feel like I've only had 2 years of this. The potential for what could develop around Gilroy Gardens and maintain the theme park is also exciting. And we're in discussions, but there's nothing, like I said, that I can really tell you about. There's nothing that's been vetted to the point where anything we're saying. We've put a huge jolt into street maintenance that had been underfunded for far too long and from which, sadly, we may never be able to fully catch up. But that's another accomplishment I'm proud of and for which I thank my fellow council members who have supported this program. Advocating for the dollars for Gilroy for the 10125 interchange project, including the continued work for Phase 2, the 101 10th Street widening from Chestnut to Arroyo Circle. No one at the VTA board or Caltrain board any longer forgets about Gilroy. You guys, it is really important to be at that table. I've been at both, and I'm telling you, when I first started, it's amazing that in their minds, everything stops in San Jose. Even reports, you would get reports that are identified as Santa Clara County. The title of the report is Santa Clara County, but the report itself stops in San Jose, South San Jose. It's just mind-boggling how this went on. Well, it is and it isn't. I say it's mind-boggling, but if you're not there, if nobody's there from Gilroy and Morgan Hill, then that's how it's going to feel, that nobody's there from Gilroy and Morgan Hill. So that, to me, is just a huge difference. If you attend any of the VTA or Caltrain board meetings, I don't know if you do or not or ever watch them, but you will hear a lot more references to South County than ever before. And Caltrain is in San Carlos, so that's even farther north. But I know that our representatives here from both of those organizations know how much effort, and they too are coming to Gilroy more now, and tabling at events that we have here too. And so it's a really great partnership. I thank you both for everything that you've done. Advocating for more actual transit service too to come to Gilroy, something that we never stopped doing. Advocating for Gilroy's proportionate share of Measure A dollars, another win and something that I'm proud that the City Council supported and approved with that MOU. Pushing back where developers think they can ignore our general plan and zoning and just build housing without regard to our need for balance with jobs and commercial economic development that pays for our city services. And establishing and funding the trust that shows we are the Section 115 trust I was telling you about for our retirement, that shows that we're financially prudent and aware that we may otherwise be unable to meet our annual minimum obligations for our employees to CalPERS. No more kicking the can down the road as the problem just continues to grow. These decisions and direction by the City Council bring the crucial financial backbone to support our city services, to foster a healthy economy, and to maintain our quality of life in Gilroy. So in conclusion, I attended Friday's legislative summit that the chamber hosted, and our assembly member, our representative Robert Rivas, who's also the Speaker of the House, when he spoke, he got up and said, "People are angry." He's goes around his district, goes around the state. People are angry. The state is funding many things for which results aren't there to justify the spending. We have an out-of-control deficit, the largest ever, he said. Theft continues throughout the state in the dollar amounts that are just below, right, that which carries consequences. Well, cities across the state are suffering. We're adding housing throughout. He even said this, admitted, adding housing throughout, but it's coming to some cities, like Gilroy, before the critical infrastructure is first in place. That's what I was saying earlier. So people are angry. That's a statement. That's the reality. So how do we deal with that? I think we remember that here in our own community of Gilroy, we are family. I don't care how long you've been here. We are family. And not that family doesn't get angry with each other and want to fight too, but if we could just recognize the good and the warmth that is in each of us intending to make Gilroy stronger and better, then I think we can bring that down and save ourselves from going the route of what Speaker Rivas is seeing throughout the state. At least I hope we can. As a city, we have lots more to do. But we've also accomplished a lot together as a city government, city staff, and you. We are Gilroy, and I am so very proud to be your mayor. Thank you for being here tonight, everybody.
We'd like to thank you for joining us this evening. This concludes the formal presentation for this evening, but we have cookies. And please make sure you spend some time with your colleagues and talking about all the great things that are going on in Gilroy. Have a good night, and thank you for attending.